Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sine of 2a and cosine of 2a. These are called double angles because 2 times the angle. You're doubling the angle. Okay? I'm going to write that down here. Double angles. Okay, we're going to find out what sine of 2a equals the identity for it and cosine of 2a. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the identities that we learned yesterday, the sum and difference identity. We're going to use the sum identity for sine. So how could we add 2 angles together to get 2a? What would you add together?
Sine.
What plus what? Yeah, a plus a. A plus a would give you 2a, wouldn't it? Okay. So we're going to change this to the sine of a plus a, and that's what we learned yesterday. Sine of a plus a, except we have the same one. We don't have a and b, we have a and a. Yeah, that we're not. Or I'm showing you how to. We're going to get those. We're going to we're going to find these. Okay. So we're going to have sine of a, cosine of a, plus cosine of a, sine of a. Okay. Now, is sine a, cosine a the same thing as cosine a, sine a? Yes. So if we could add these together,
Those 2 sine.
1.
be 2 sine a, cosine a, right? Okay, and that is an identity. It is on here. Sine of 2a equals 2 sine a, cosine a. That's where it came from. Okay? Okay, y'all got that written down? Heidi, you got it written down? Go ahead and write it down. Okay, then cosine 2a, we're going to do the same thing with it. Cosine of a plus a. Yes. Now, cosine is not sine cosine, is it? What is it? Remember? Cosine cosine. Cosine a, cosine a. And it's opposite. It's minus, isn't it?
Minus
And then
sine a, sine a.
good. Sine a, sine a. Okay, so what is cosine a times cosine a?
Cosine squared. A.
Minus.
Sine squared a.
Okay, and that is an identity for cosine 2a. That's one of them. It's this one right here. Cosine squared a minus sine squared a. Now, we can get 2 more out of this by substituting. What could we put for cosine squared a?
Cosine squared.
Remember that?
1 minus sine squared.
Good. 1 minus sine squared a, right?
Yeah.
Right here. So we'll substitute 1 minus sine squared a minus sine squared a. So now we have 2 sine squared a's. We can add those together and get
2
1
sine squared a.
minus 2 sine squared a. And that's one of them right here. 1 minus 2 sine squared a.
And then we could do the same thing with sine
Right.
and then the 1 minus cosine.
Except, yeah, it is 1 minus.
Wait, how'd you get the 1 minus sine squared a minus sine squared a?
I've substituted for cosine squared a. Substituted this right here. Move the cosine over. So for sine,
Sine over.
move the sine over. So cosine squared x equals 1 minus cosine squared a.
Okay.
So we put 1 minus sine squared a in there for the cosine squared a. Okay. So we're gonna do the same thing with the sine squared a.
But we're going to get
We'll
1
keep the
minus.
cosine squared a, and we'll have minus parentheses. What does sine squared a equal?
Cosine squared a
Minus
minus
1. Okay. So then you distribute your negative, and you get cosine squared a minus cosine. No,
I thought it was 1 minus cosine.
that's what it is. I wasn't thinking, I was just writing. 1 minus cosine, which makes more sense. Right? Everybody agree with that? Okay. So distribute your negatives so you get minus 1 plus cosine squared A,
2 cosines
right? So,
squared A minus 1.
right, 2 cosine squared A, these added together, and then minus 1. So that's your third cosine 2A identity. Okay. So we're just showing where these identities came from. We didn't do that with these because
So-
these are really complicated where these came from. Okay.
If it's sine A, it only has one solution. 2 sine A, cosine A.
Well, no, I mean, there's only one identity for sine of 2A. Not solution, but identity. Okay, so we're just going to write these down. Sine of 2A is 2 sine A cosine A. And this is the main one that you need to remember. Okay, the basic 8 and this one are the ones you really need to know. Now remember, the rest of them you always be able to look at. Okay. Then cosine 2A. Let's write down.
Cosine squared A minus
Uh-huh.
sine squared A.
1 minus 2 sine squared A.
Right. And
2 cosine squared A minus 1.
we have all of those down. Okay, so now we're going to use these identities to rewrite some and simplify them as much as we can. So we've got 2 sine of 45 cosine of 45. What is that one? Sine of 2A. So what is A?
45.
45. So we're going to put the sine of 2 times 45. Okay, so what is 2 times 45?
90
Sine of 90
equals
Yep, it's 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sine of 90 is 1. It's a quadrantal at 90 degrees and 0, 1, so sine is 1. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
no.
What happened
to the cosine?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Okay. This is it, right? 2 sine of 45 cosine of 45. It equals sine of 2 times 45.
Okay, gotcha.
That's where we got that
I
from.
thought we were doing the left and we were trying to find the right.
No, we were given the right,
Gotcha.
so it's equal to the left. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay. 1 minus 2 sine squared of 25. I'm going to get my
Cosine squared.
good. Cosine of 2A?
Yeah.
So it'd be the cosine of 2 times what?
25.
25. Cosine of 50. Do we know the cosine of 50?
No.
No. So we're just going to leave it.
That's it.
Yeah. If we had the cosine of 30, we know those. Or 60 or 45. Okay, now the next one looks like 1, but not quite. Which one does it kind of look like? Cosine of 2A. This one?
Yeah, which it could be
squared
because-
A minus 1.
6 and 3 can turn into 2 and 1, right?
Okay, so what would we factor out of here?
3.
3 parentheses 2 cosine squared x minus 1. Now that looks like the identity, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll have 3 parentheses cosine of 2 x. X is your A here. Okay.
That's it? Or do we need to just...
That's it, but we'll just write it without the parentheses. Okay, I saw some questioning faces. Are we okay here? No?
It's confusing me because I saw the first cosine 2A,
Uh-huh.
so I got it now though, because there's two cosine 2A. That's what confused me, but now I got it.
There's
What happened to
3
the
cosine 2
six?
A's,
There's
actually.
three,
Yeah. So, but it's this one down here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the A and the X bothering you?
No, I was just
I mean, anybody?
What happened to the 6?
Okay, we factored a 3 out. With 3 parentheses.
Okay.
3 times 2 is 6. Here.
Now how did that squared get down to cosine 2x?
Okay, this right here is this identity.
Alright.
Okay?
Makes
So-
more sense.
That equals cosine of 2A. That's where we got this from.
And we leave the 3 there because we factored it out earlier.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what they did was multiply the cosine of 2A by 3. They multiplied this by 3 and got 6 cosine squared minus 2. Okay.
So on the next one, could you factor out a 4?
To factor out a 4, and the reason we want to do that is so,
So you
It's
have
2
two
sine
sine
x
x.
cosine
Right.
x. And then you have 4.
okay, right, okay with that, 4 times 2 is 8, that's okay.
Yes.
And then this 2 sine x cosine x is
Sine a to x.
sine of 2a, or sine of 2x,
So it'd just be
4 sine 2x. You don't have to have that middle step that I put.
And this one, do you have to
This one's a little
multiply it by
harder,
2?
a little harder.
Like factor
Yeah.
into, or factor out
So
1
you
half.
got
Factor out a
Sine of-
half, we could do
sine
that.
of 2
You could,
times 3.
and that would make it 2 sine.
It's really, it looks like it's half of which one?
This one.
That one, right?
So it'd be 2 sine 60 cosine 60.
So yeah, you're gonna have a half of 2 sine 3 theta, it's not 60, cosine 3 theta.
Oops.
I made that mistake too.
What, will you explain that?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I haven't finished.
Okay.
Okay. If you multiply 1/2 times 2, what do you get? 1. Do you get this up here? Okay. We wanted the 2 so that it would look like that. That's why I did that.
Oh, got it.
Okay? So you could have put 2 sine theta, sine 3 theta, cosine 3 theta. And so what can I multiply that by so that I get a 1 up here? Okay. Yeah, I want the 1/2. Right? Okay, so what is 2 sine 3 theta, cosine 3 theta equal to?
Sine 3 theta. Or
Sine of
2 3 theta.
2 times 3 theta, right? Okay, this is A. This is A. All right, 2 sine A, cosine
But the
A.
1/2 doesn't affect 3 though?
1/2 is on the outside of the sign. It's not taking half of 3. It's taking half of the whole thing. Okay. Okay, it only affects the number in front. Okay, the 1/2 does. Does everybody understand the 2 times 3 theta though?
Yeah, good sine
Okay.
2a.
So sine 6 theta.
See, because you weren't distributing yet. You were just.
I didn't distribute anything
Yeah.
except the 1/2 of it to the 2.
Yeah, I got
Okay. All we were doing here was it's sine of 2 times the angle, and the angle is 3 theta.
Yeah.
So it's 2 times 3 theta. Okay, if you don't like it this way, because I did it the other way, 3rd period, and they liked it better this way. But you can just say, you know that this, if we divide this by 2, we get sine A cosine A, right? So then you divide this side by 2. Okay, and you don't divide the 2a by 2, it's 1/2 sine of 2a. That's what we have here, 1/2 sine
God
of
bless
2a.
you.
That seemed easier.
It's easier to me, and that's how I did it first, 3rd period, and they didn't like it. So I think whichever way you look at it first is hard. So
I like the first way.
okay.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay, so the next one is just the same thing,
But
isn't it?
Yeah.
So
we have
it's
1/2.
half of this, right? So we're going to have half of sine of 2 times 15.
But we
And
need,
so
then it's
2 times 15 would be 30.
and we
You
know
got
the sine
1/2
of
for
30.
Sine of 30.
What is the sine of
Sine
30?
of 30
1/2.
is 1/2. So
1/2 times
1/2 is
1/4.
What?
Where do we get the 1/2 from, or what are you wondering about?
Yeah, because the chart thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
What?
Just a classic
Any other
math
whats?
reaction.
Okay, does this look like?
It looks like
Take out a
Something
negative
else.
1.
yeah.
Because you don't have your red pants on.
Just factor out a negative, kids.
It's not a math thing.
Yeah, but what about the 2? Shouldn't there be a 2 in front?
Oh, I wasn't looking at that one. I was looking at the one above it.
This one, but shouldn't there be a 2 in front?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not any of these. Okay. It's not any of those. It is The original one, yes.
Is it not?
It's that
negative
one.
cosine, isn't it?
It is negative cosine squared. How did you get that?
Because if you move the 1 over and then the cosine over,
Okay.
subtract 1 from the other side. And then add.
Right, move the 1 over here, you'll have sine squared x minus 1. Move the cosine squared over, you have negative cosine squared x. Okay, and if you don't see that, you can always substitute in for sine squared x. You can substitute 1 minus cosine squared x, like this.
Minus 1.
So
Just
these
end up with
cancel, and you just have negative cosine squared x. You can see it, sorry. Okay? Either way. Josh is having fun.
Oh, I hate these.
These are the fun ones, yes. These aren't bad. They really aren't bad.
So it can be in either.
They're giving you tangent theta equals negative 3, and the quadrant is between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. When is tangent negative? 2 or 3?
2.
2. Okay, tangent is positive in quadrant 3, isn't it?
What are we going on once we get done with this? Or we have another like section type thing of this?
What about it?
Do we have another section of
Yes,
this? like
we do.
afterwards?
We have to learn these. Right here.
So your y is negative 3.
Then we'll be done.
Your y is 3. and
Just
your
with these.
Tangent is negative.
Okay.
What are we going on after this?
I need to go on, we'll talk about it later, okay? Because I'm recording this and y'all need a quiz, so, but we're gonna go on to graphing.
So is your
Everything.
y 3 and your x negative 1?
Okay, can we stop for a second? Is y, what is tangent? Y over what? X. Okay? So, negative 3 is your y, or the negative could go down here with the 1. So if it's over here in this quadrant,
It's gonna be with the 1.
it's gonna be negative 1, because x is negative. Positive 3 because y is positive in this quadrant. Then how do you find the hypotenuse?
3
Negative
times,
0.
or 2 squared times.
Plus negative 1 squared. So what's 3 squared?
9.
Plus 1 is 10.
Square root
So
of
it's a square root of 10. Okay, now once we have all parts of the triangle, then we can find what they're asking for. They're asking us to find the value of sine of 2 theta and cosine of 2 theta. So sine 2 theta, anybody have it memorized? 2,
2 sine A cosine A.
yes. So 2 sine theta, cosine theta. If you don't have it memorized, it's right here on your, right here. Okay, guys, I would pay attention, okay? That would equal 2, and then sine theta, how do you find sine
How
from
did
the,
that just?
how do you find sine from the triangle?
Y over all.
Y over r, so that would be
3 over
3 over the square root of 10.
And then it would be 3 square root of
No,
10.
no, no, don't change it yet. Okay, then cosine theta is
Negative 1 over square root.
x over r, so it'd be negative 1 over the square root of 10. Okay, then multiply your numerators. 2 times 3. Ben, you are not paying attention, and you're going to be lost.
Negative
No, you're
3.
not. 2 times 3 is 6, times negative 1 is,
Negative 6.
what's square root of 10 times the square root of 10?
10.
Square root of 10 times square root of 10 is the square root of 100, and the square root of 100 is
10.
10. So we didn't have to worry about getting rid of it. We got rid of that square root by just multiplying them together.
I thought you, when you have 2 square roots, you can just cancel the square root out.
Yeah.
Again, every time. Doesn't matter if it.
As long as the numbers are the same.
Oh.
As long as it's the same number.
Negative 3/5.
Yes.
And now we have to do the same for cosine.
Now we gotta do cosine too.
Oh.
And there's 3 choices. Let's use the first one though. Cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta.
I like the others.
Okay, so this is a lot easier because when you have that 1 minus, you're gonna have to get a common denominator. You don't wanna do that. This one you don't have to. Or do you? No, I think it comes out, but already common. Okay, so what's cosine squared, what's cosine theta?
Negative 1 over 10.
Yes,
Square root.
we already found it up here. Minus
3 over square root of 10. Squared.
Okay, we already found out that sine of theta was 3 over square root of 10, and cosine was negative 1 over square root of 10. So I'm just plugging them in from up there. Okay. When you square that, you get,
Negative 1 over 10.
Positive
1 over 10.
1 over 10.
okay, minus 9 over 10. Good. And that equals
10. 1.
negative 8 over 10.
Let's subtract them.
Subtract your numerators. 1 minus 9 is negative 8. And then reduce.
Negative 4.
Okay, did you write that down, Ben?
No?
Did you
I
write
get
it down?
lost whenever I'm trying to write it down. I can't keep up with you.
Okay. All right, then on number 11, verify the
Wait,
following.
is that all we need?
Uh-huh.
Is it negative 3/5 and negative 4/5?
It just said find the value of sine of 2 theta and cosine of 2 theta. So sine of 2 theta equals negative 3/5. Cosine of 2 theta equals negative 4/5.
Makes,
Okay.
it makes sense until we start working on our homework.
Okay, now number 11. We got cosine of 2x.
That's sine squared x.
So, could you just change
No, what's cos? Remember, 2x is which one? Any of these, right? Okay, so we need to figure out which one we want to use. Even though any of them will work, but what about the bottom? What about sine of 2x? There's only one we can use. This is
Yeah.
2 sine x cosine x. Trying to get tangent x, but we could choose. What do you want to choose?
The second one.
Top one.
Like the second one?
Okay.
Sounds good to me. Top one would work also, though. Okay, I put it in parentheses because there's a negative in front. We're going to make sure we distribute the negative. So that would be 1 minus 1 plus 2 sine squared x.
Then could you
What happens to the 1s?
cancel?
They cancel out. 1 minus 1 is 0. So we just have 2 sine squared x over 2 sine x cosine x. We can cancel here. And
Twos.
so you cancel out a sine x down here, and you have a sine x left up here,
And sin x.
Sin x over cosine x,
which is tangent x.
So, will all 3 of those things work?
Yes, they would have.
And but just the other 2 would take longer, maybe?
Maybe.
Possibly?
Maybe.
I,
This was a good one to pick, but they could take longer. If you put cosine minus cosine. I don't know.
This
Then
is
you-
rough stuff.
This is better. This was the best one to pick.
Score.
Okay.
Kid.
All right. On your homework, you're gonna do the odds.
other people are getting so lost.
Yes.
I recorded it. I need to stop recording.
Wait, what did you record?